Welcome to Decision Point. On college campuses these days, it seems like students are open to anything but Christianity. However, our guest today, John Randalls, has been reaching college students for over 20 years, and he's here to share his insights. And with him is Dr. David Lowry of First Baptist Church, who is hosting him at his church this week. Welcome, gentlemen. Amen. So happy to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And so, what do you think about that statement that college students are open to just about anything but Christianity? Is that true or not?
I would say that college students are open to just about anything because they're in the most learning, sensitive, and intense time of their lives. But I would say that they're open to anything, including Christianity, and especially to Christianity in many cases.
Oh, really? Now, why would you say that?
Well, because for what we're seeing around the country, there's a real interest in spiritual things, and students are coming to college and making choices. Many times what we see are the ones that have come out of Christian backgrounds, and then when they get into college they move into that experimental period of time where it appears that they're walking away from their faith. But we're also seeing a lot of students who have not had faith, who are very open to exploring Christianity. I think it's a wash, and in the end, a lot of these students that walk away during this experimental time, once they start having their children, get married, have kids, and whatever, begin to settle into their lives, and start moving back toward what's going to be their normalcy. We're seeing a lot of them that come to Christ and or come back to the faith and back to the church. So the truth of the matter is, I think college students are a wide open field and a good field for Christian faith to flourish.
Right. Now, well, how do you go about defining evangelism? I'd be interested in whether you think that it's the same as it was back in the day when Billy Graham was preaching at crusades and that sort of thing, or do you think it's changed?
Oh, it's deeply changed. I know that being with Dr. Lowry and his church a number of times we've talked about this. But you know, folks that are in the baby boomer and even to some extent the Buster and in the Generation X group, they have a tendency to see things that are they see things vertically. In other words, there's sort of a respect for authority. Their relationships are vertical.
Yeah.
But millennials, who for the record are now the largest generational group, okay, even more so than the boomers. They outnumber the boomers.
So the millennials being the age group of?
Those that were born, let's say, after about 1985. And those are the ones that are moving into the college realms. 83, I think, is the date most sociologists give it. But this group, they are extremely horizontal in their relationships. They're looking for who loves them and who cares for them, because many of them are coming out of homes that have been, by the traditional model, let's call it, dysfunctional. Certainly, they are concerned about the future. They're concerned about environment. They're concerned about green. They're concerned about world peace. I mean, they look out and say, with all the technological advances, with all the changes in the world, population, other things, there's a nervousness about the future, and they have a lot of uncertainty in the front end of their lives, because many of them have been raised by grandparents. Many of them have not come from that nuclear family of a mom and a dad, etc. All of that has led to them being a group saying, look, we're looking for something that works, but they don't see it downline, they see it horizontally. So where trust is built, where honesty is, they're pretty much open to anything. And then a second thing about them is this. My generation, and you guys are younger, but in my generation, but yours too, you're going to see people join institutions to find relationships. These kids will join institutions. People say that they won't join the church, or they won't join the Kiwanis, they won't join the Lions Club. They will, but they have to have a relationship first. So where people are building relationships horizontally and building trust and telling them the truth, then I'm telling you, there's a real openness in this generation to be. These people want to join something and be part of a family and part of community. And one of the things that happens with all of the community that you see out there on Facebook, etc., is it's shallow. And so it's great at first, but it doesn't really meet your needs to just do it over they want more.
Right.
And as they're looking for more, they will get involved, and a lot of them are, we're going to see a lot of them in church. It may not look like the church of our mom and dad, but belief in God and a relationship with Jesus Christ, they're very open to that.
Yeah. Now, how did you first get involved in working with college students? And I know you also do a lot of work with athletes, but particularly college students.
You know, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas. My father and mother were educators, but I went to Texas Tech, and in Lubbock, Texas, there was a wonderful church that, in fact, David's father was the pastor of that church later, not when I was a student, it was before that. But that really, early on, reached out to college students in a way that very few churches did of any denomination. Now many churches of many denominations do, but that church was really a precursor. And I just was privileged to be involved with people that were involved on the Texas Tech campus, and out of that learned how to work with students. And then I've had the privilege of teaching as an adjunct at the college level, and I've just had the opportunity to work with college students for a long, long time as a pastor, and then now as a traveling speaker and a motivator. But been doing it a long time and love college students. They're the grandest group in the world, if you understand them, to work with, because they're so open to learning, to growing, to knowledge, and they're trying to determine what are absolute truths and what were just preferences that were placed upon them.
Right.
When they come to trust you, they want absolute truths. They really don't want relativism in the end. They really do want absolutes.
I run and actually just started a group of young adults who include college students and people who've recently graduated from college. And just from my own experience, what you're saying is really resonating with me. They are very open, and they are very transparent themselves to truth.
Well, and all you have to look at is, you know, you do I think one of the most recent surveys, something like 83% of this millennial generation that's in college now believe in God, and about 94% of them believe in prayer. And look at how many of what they watch in movies and read in books have supernatural storylines. They're interested in spiritual matters, and they're not anti-church. Or let's put this, they're not anti-Christianity. They may be anti-church, they're not anti-Christianity. Right. But the thing about it is, what they need is they need the ability to explore. Right. And as they explore, they're going to tie in with who they have trust relationships with and who they believe told them the truth. Right. And look, I think Christianity can stand its ground with the other faiths without any problem. Right. And then I'll tell you something else. A lot of these statistics that talk about how we're losing the kids when they leave high school, well, that's true. They do stop going to church, many of them, because they're into this exploratory time. But that normals out as they approach 30 and enter into their 30s. And it'd be interesting. I don't think the study's been done yet that would show us statistically how many of them never really abandoned faith and how many of them return to faith. And what we're going to have to do as Christian leaders is figure out how we can bring the church forward to where it's an environment in which they're comfortable coming back to. And because I don't think they've abandoned faith. I think, and many of them are finding faith.
Yeah, my experience is that they want authenticity. They don't want an institution. They want a relationship per se.
But there's a lot of books out there that teach this group will not join institutions. I really think that's being written by people that are angry. Right. The truth of the matter is, they will once the trust and the relationships are there. But the trust and relationships have to come first, because in the end, as you normalize, any sociologist would say, as you normalize, you have to join and build institutions. They certainly won't be the old institutions. They may look different, but what was good about these will be brought forward. It has to be for you to have civilization, and they will normalize. What we've got to do is we've got to figure out how to create environments in which they can normalize and in which they're happy. I just know this. I know that on every college campus in America, there are a lot of students that are finding Christ, and certainly in some places more than others. But this is a good time, because really for people to find Christ, two things have to happen. One is they have to be in enough pain to say, I'm looking for change. College students are there. See, when you're not in pain, you maintain the status quo and violently defend it. these young people today, they're in a lot of pain. The average college student has to wait 2 years right now after graduation before they get a job in the field in which they studied. And, you know, that's put a lot of stress on young people.
Yeah, well, the whole issue of, David, I know in your ministry and so forth, you really have to pastorally deal with a lot of the pain of young people. Can you tell us a little bit about that in terms of college students, and how do you deal with that uniquely from a perspective of reaching out, of healing, of helping them to understand the love of Christ?
For our church, I think what we're trying to do is we're leading with relationships. We brought in a young man, Eric Jimenez, on staff, who's on campus at UTEP 2 or 3 days a week, and his main job is just to interact with students, get to know them, establish relationships with them. When they come to the church, we want them to see something real. So we try to do ministry in ways that we talk about the good and the bad. You know, we acknowledge that we struggle, that we have fears and doubts, and create the environment where they can tell us the truth about what they're feeling and experiencing. Because if they don't think we're accessible, or if they see Christianity as somehow being detached from reality, then they're going to check out on us. And so we look for ways to have them engage with people, talking, building relationships, sharing coffee, just relationship building is where we start.
And do you find that this is a group of people who are dealing with a lot of pain, disappointment, and that kind of thing, or that it just varies tremendously?
Probably, at least the ones I've gotten to know personally, they all have stories to tell. Most kids, their family life wasn't what it should have been, so they have issues related to dysfunctional families, breakdowns with their parents in terms of communication. Sometimes there's abuse. Sometimes in response to the hurt in their life, they've made some bad choices. They've turned to drug, alcohol, sex, different things to deal with the hurt. And then once they get in those behaviors, it's like, how do you, what do I do about it? And of course, my advice to them is, let's not focus on the behaviors. Let's focus upon your heart and your life. What was driving that behavior? Why were you seeking those answers? And as you deal with those underlying issues, and that's where Christ comes in, and relationships come in, then those things that grip them begin to lose their power in their life.
Now, what would you say is the mindset of this group that is different from other types of groups that you've dealt with in the past, or other generations of college students?
Well, look, what I would say is real important is a couple of things. One is, because of media that we're doing even today, okay, and the 24-hour news cycle, and because of the incredible technological advances that have happened in the last 20 years, one of the problems you've got is instant gratification has caused a real problem. So what you have is, you have people, and you couple that with the fact that my generation gave everybody a trophy just for showing up. What you have is a generation of people who have expectations that are unmeetable. In other words, you're not going to get a hug and a note just because you showed up for work, okay? So the problem is, we've created and we've told people they could be anything. To our kids, you can be anything. Really, the truth is, that's not right. You can do a lot of great things and maximize your potential, but I couldn't have been a brain surgeon. I don't have the DNA for that, and I don't have the acumen for it. I can do something else. I couldn't have done that. I don't have the hand-mind dexterity to do it. I couldn't have done that. Okay, so it's not true. So
they've been told some lies, basically.
Absolutely, and that's created unreal expectations. Instant gratification is another problem, and then the fact that that you have a world in which, bluntly, you've got a real lack of fathers. There's a real absentee father issue, and what's created is they really have come out in a great way looking to say, what is it that's really absolute, and what is it that's preferences that either are not going to work in my generation, okay, or and this extends even to things like environmental things, because they're looking around saying, okay, I like driving my car, but I can tell that by the time I'm old, there may not be enough oil. So what am I going to do? In other words, are there answers for me? So there's a lot of chaos, and they're really desirous of finding what are some absolutes that can work for me. And the ultimate absolute is a relationship with our Creator through Jesus Christ. I just find that when you're real raw with them and you're real straightforward and real, they love energy, they love truth, and they like it to be raw. And when you do those things, the trust will develop. They just want people in their lives they can trust, because they just feel like institutions have not been totally honest with them, and that's a problem for this generation.
Right. Now, what I'd like to do for a minute, John, is to go to a video clip that I think kind of illustrates the type of authentic ministry that we're talking about here, that you have and others in reaching out to college students. And it was a particular camp that you were a speaker at. It was called the Uprising Camp, and I guess this is something that you do periodically. So we're going to go to that clip right now and see what some of the authentic types of ministries are that are going on with college students. Okay, so John, with the kind of ministry where you go into an organization or a college campus, is it just like a crusade sort of thing, or do you try to get into some of the more relational types of ministries? How does that work?
No, a crusade wouldn't work, I mean, because they don't know you, they don't trust you, so they're not going to come to an event. What we do is try to be on a college campus over a period of time. For instance, this entire year I'm at Tarleton State University on Thursday nights, and we're there every Thursday, and it grows over time. So it's got to be highly relational, more than proclamational, and then they'll listen to you proclaim, I think. I know David's very good at building relationships with students, and there were a lot of students at his church Sunday when I spoke there. I was very impressed.
Good, good. How has the social media impacted the whole issue of evangelism and discipleship? Is this something that is a plus or a minus?
Well, with our students at the different places where we do things, the social media is very helpful, because not in the evangelism itself or the teaching itself, but it's very helpful in getting those students to the event, because the kids get on the web and talk to each other, and they're all Facebooking each other. And I just know that Facebook at Tarleton State explodes on Thursdays as the kids are encouraging their friends, and a lot of students show up because of it.
We did an event several years ago at University of Texas, and the only way we advertised it was Facebook. It was a human trafficking type event.
Yeah, sure.
And anyway, it was remarkable. We had like 400 students that showed up. Wow. And the only communication piece was Facebook. And it just virally went through that network, and the kids showed up because of interest in the relationships.
Right.
And then I would add to that, that another fun thing about the technology is we have several of our students that are studying overseas and trying to be a spiritual witness on campuses in Asia and in Europe and in Africa, and we don't lose touch with them, because when we gather together, we'll announce on Facebook, we're going to Skype in them, and they're going to say a few words, and they actually get to see us because we turn the video camera on our crowd, and our crowd says hi to them, and then it goes back and they talk, and it's been very, very helpful when we don't let it intimidate us, but use it properly. It's been good. It's been very good.
So it actually is a big advantage if it's used properly, and then the downside, as you said, is that students get more comfortable with interacting on the social media and are less comfortable perhaps from a relational perspective or coming to a gathering.
Well, and we even use Twitter. Sometimes we'll have an evening where we'll let them Twitter things. We'll put it up on the screens, and then whoever the speaker is, it may be me, it might be David Lowry, will answer the questions that the kids. So it's so the message and the interaction is instantaneous,
very real time.
in the event.
Yeah.
And then we live stream what we do on Thursdays, and so we have kids that are following us in China and Hungary, and they found us on the web, and now they come in, join the live stream.
Well, we'll have to put that up on the show so that people can.
But here's the thing, though.
See that.
They do. But here's the thing. All this electronic stuff is great, but it can only take you so deep.
Right.
Then they're wanting more, and that's where I think churches of all stripes who love the Lord have an opportunity to reach students, because as the students look around saying, I want a deeper relationship than a Facebook relationship or a Twitter relationship. If trust has been built, I really believe these kids will. I've got a lot of faith that these kids are going to go to church as they grow older.
Right. What advice could you give to parents, grandparents, relatives who are concerned about a college student who want to see them get connected? What can they do, or is it too late for them to be able to influence them in the way that they perhaps used to?
Well, David, you're the boss. You're the guy that knows this. How do you do it here? How do you guys do that here?
As far as we've had referrals, like parents, grandparents
Sure.
contact us. Of course, that's where Eric and others would reach out to those students. I think I have college daughters. As a parent, I try to just to encourage them to go to church. I encourage them to find a church that fits what they're looking for.
Right.
It may not necessarily be the one like they grew up in,
Sure.
but one that they feel connected to. And we periodically just ask, tell me about where you're going to church. Tell me what's going on. And we strongly encourage them to go beyond worship services,
Sure.
to get involved in a group, to participate in some mission or service project. We're raising money right now for our daughter to go to the Olympics as a summer missionary project, and she'll go and she'll make friends on that trip. Things like that.
Right.
Are the things that we try to do.
Where they can get connected and so forth.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we're going to take 100 students. We do it every spring. We take 100 of our students to New Orleans to build houses down in the Upper Ninth because of the Katrina devastation. And then we go to a local church and have an evening each night where we have services with that local church in partnership. And if you can get the students to get involved at that deeper level of a small group where there's some accountability, coupled with get involved in some mission work of some kind, I guarantee you they wind up, when they leave college, being strong Christians and strong churchmen, and there's a great thing that happens there.
Right.
For parents, what I'd say is, for one thing, if you can get your youth pastor or your priest to contact a college ministry in a city where your child is going during their senior year in high school, to where that college ministry can make a connection with that student during their senior year, so that when that student walks on campus, they already have a relationship. It's all about relationship. If you get them in the first 6 weeks of their freshman year, you got them for the whole time. If you don't, then it's a little harder to get them, because in that first 6 weeks, when they're the most needy, they could attach to the wrong folks and wind up having some problems during their college years.
Right. Yeah. How can parents prepare their high school students for what they will encounter spiritually in college?
Oh, that's a big one. One thing is, you got to stop teaching preferences as if they're absolutes, because when that child gets to college and they realize that what you taught as a preference was really, what you taught as an absolute was really a preference, then they are not sure that they trust your absolutes. So parents need to be secure enough.
By preferences, you mean what?
Well, I think that what a parent's got to do is make sure, let's say that you come from a particular Christian stripe that doesn't want young people to dance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, or
So
play cards,
rules
or
and that kind of
drink,
thing,
or
right.
whatever. Well,
Yeah.
you better teach what the Bible teaches about those issues, not necessarily what you would
Right.
like in your control mode to see your child do, because when they get to college, they're going to have the opportunity, and they're going to hear from other sources that are going to say, that's not exactly what the Bible says, or they're going to say, not everybody does it that way. And all of a sudden they look around and go, man, I'm not sure what to believe now.
Yeah.
So be careful about the difference in preferences and absolutes, and then you can teach your preferences.
I would add that you need to let them start talking to you in high school about their faith journey and be receptive to what's going on in their lives, because if they're not talking to you in high school, they won't talk to you in college.
Right.
And
yeah.
so building that relationship in those years
Right.
is critical, so that they feel like you're accessible and that they can tell you what they're really experiencing without you being judgmental toward them or hard on them.
Right. I know as a parent, because I do have high school and college age children, and I know that emotionally it's sometimes hard for me to hear something coming out of their mouth that is different from what I believe or from what I think might be a good thing. And so it is a huge challenge as a parent to, as you say, listen non-judgmentally. I mean, that's
And
a
you
big
have
one.
to be mature enough to be the parent. And I mean, my kids are all grown and married now, but let me tell you, we always had an open conversation line, but my wife and I heard a few things over the course of their upbringing and college years that I probably looked at Kelly and said, I wish I didn't know that. But you know what?
Right.
You can't do that. You have to be mature, because they've come to you with it because they want help and they are seeking counsel. Got to be the parent. And sometimes it's hard to
Right.
be the parent. I know that.
Well, this has been a delightful conversation, and you've both been so informative, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
So there are many college-age students in the El Paso area, and we need to pray that God's Spirit will touch them and reach out to this vital age group. So please tell us what you learned today by contacting us on the social media. Thank you so much for watching.